Every day, we're confronted with thousands of decisions. Should I get a burrito or a burger for lunch? Will I need a sweater if I go to the outer sunset? And we not only have to make these decisions, but learn from them, so we can make better ones in the future. And amazingly, one way learning can be improved is by cutting down on something most of us love doing: eating. Eating just a little bit less, the equivalent of 2 meals a day instead of 3, improves learning across virtually all animal species. But how can less food in our bellies make for better learning in our brains? Well, the food we eat is broken down into chemicals called metabolites, and we think these metabolites may be able to directly influence learning. Of course, learning is a very complicated process, so I study it just as simply as possible, using tiny transparent roundworms. These guys have brains that are incredibly small, just 302 brain cells. But they can do a lot. They can sense their environment, make decisions, and they can even learn. In fact, they can learn just like Pavlov's dogs did. Pavlov taught them to salivate when he rang a bell, because that bell predicted he'd give them food. In the case of these worms, they can learn to associate a smell they don't normally care about with something rewarding. And once that happens, they love this smell. And if we make them go on a diet, they learn even better. Fortunately, we can do a lot of genetic manipulations with these tiny worms to try to understand why this happens. That's how I discovered a mutation that turns the worms into super learners. They learn as well as if they had been on a diet, but while eating as much as they want. That sounds like the dream, right? You get to be smart and eat a lot. So what does this mutation do? It gets rid of one nasty metabolite. Now, people have known about this metabolite for 100 years, but wrote it off as an unimportant molecule that came from our food and just kind of floated around the body. But I discovered that it's actually really important in connecting metabolism to learning. It can directly bind to brain cells and shut them down, making learning harder. So the animals that eat less, or these mutants that I found, don't have this nasty metabolite, and that makes learning easier. And this metabolite isn't specific to worms. It exists in humans too. In fact, other people are now finding that this metabolite is involved in brain diseases like schizophrenia and Alzheimer's disease. So I think that this one little metabolite that a lot of people thought was just a waste product is actually a major connection between metabolism and general brain function, explaining how what goes into our bellies controls what goes on in our brains. Thanks.